Hi, this is Julie Calvey. Today what I'm going to do is talk about what neuro-linguistic programming is and how it works. The reason is that some of you may have experienced the processes, watched in person or by video or by somebody speaking about them. I use a process that was taught to me by David Snyder's, and he is the best of the best. I've watched others, been in the presence of others, talked on the phone of others, and I wasn't impressed at all either. Didn't find it helpful, nothing long lasting. So I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind and listen to what I have to say. And I have a free webinar that I did last Sunday, and I can email it to you. And you can do the techniques as I'm giving them and see what you think. You can really change your life this way. This is the only thing that I've ever done that has been long lasting. I'll never go back to regular life coaching again, because this is the only way you can access the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is what drives us. Say this is our mind. The conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg, and the conscious mind is vast. And it's built by design. It's a great design. If you had to live consciously of everything that is now unconscious to you, you'd go crazy. So it's a fabulous system, but in these days, in these very modern times, we need a new way, and NLP will do it for you. If I've practiced the techniques on myself, and I have ridden my body. When things land in the body, they're the hardest to get rid of, because you've got different bodies. You've got your aura, you've got your energy field, you've got your emotional body, and you've got your physical body, and many more. When they finally land in the physical body, which means they've been there a long time, they're very traumatic, it just takes a lot for them to finally land in the physical body. It's harder to get rid of, and will take longer, and you will probably have to go through more of the same technique, or it could be caused by multiple factors within the unconscious mind. I've rid myself of 3 physical problems, and I had to have a go at it every day using slightly different techniques, but they're gone, and I couldn't be more happy. So on to the good stuff. Did you ever play pretend as a child? I used to pretend I was a dog. I was absorbed in it. Nothing else existed. I was absorbed. I was focused, and it made me so happy. So this is likened to let's say you go into a movie. You walk in and the movie turns on, and you get to, in the beginning it takes me a while to get into a movie, but once I'm in it, I am absorbed, I am focused, and it's like I'm in that movie. And this these are the principles behind NLP according to my world. It takes absorption, focus, and willingness. Now, you have free choice, and you can say no to this. Now, and that's okay, because as I take you into a state of absorption and focus, and you're still fighting it, it may work anyway. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard awareness is everything. It sounds cliche these days, but it's true. But you can only be aware of what's conscious to you. And that's what's so great about NLP. The unconscious mind is vast. And in NLP techniques, we can bring into the conscious mind what is unconscious to us at a rate that's right for you. We don't want to change the biggest problem you've got, because that might bring nervous system overload. And it would be hard. It would be tackling a problem that you'd have to go over and over again, and you wouldn't get, instead of doing it the other way, say you've got a big problem, chop it in half again, go for something smaller, because everything's connected in your body. You know, I'm outlining this in such a 2D way, which is the only way I can do it, but everything's connected. So, start with something small. I had an older gentleman come into my home some weeks ago, and I asked him to come up with something small, and I said, what hurts right now? What comes up first? And he says, my toes hurt. I asked him, I wanted to see his toes, and I said, okay, close your eyes. And I said, okay, point to where it hurts, and then I went on with the technique. So the pain went away. He was so happy. He said, oh my God, he's in his 80s, and he has a hard enough time walking around. No, he's actually 86, or maybe he's 87 this year. But he was so happy, and he's been back for more. And then this is what happens. There's a cascading effect. The next thing, his unconscious mind grew trust in me. So right away, that critical factor went away, and I'll tell you about that next. And of course, I first guided him into a pleasurable state where he was in a happy for no reason state, and gave him an anchor for that. So every time he touches his right ear, and this is my right ear, he could bring that state back. And that's when the unconscious mind becomes malleable. Otherwise, the reptile brain is rigid. Doesn't want to change, won't change. So in order to deal with the reptile brain, and the reptile brain is very important to this system, we need it more flexible. And when it's more flexible, that critical factor goes away. Everybody's happy. So the next time he came in, I said, just sit back, touch your ear. What pops up next? And we went for what was next. Now, and no sweat. So he's happier and happier and happier, and he feels more of who he is, and his personality has changed for the better. Now, I looked at his feet because I wanted to check to see if he had any bulging, and he did. So he was likely to go into rheumatoid disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and he does have heart problems, and then rheumatoid heart disease. So I stopped it right there. That's why we want to go for the small stuff, because we can cut off the big stuff too. But we will, when we get through with all the small stuff, we will check on his heart as well. Okay, so at the same time, we are looking at the good in you, the good feelings in you, the good memories in you, and bringing more of what you really are, and doing identity by design, what you want to bring to you. So we do both at the same time to balance things out, and you just become more and more happy. And my own story, a little bit of this is, I had insomnia since 9/11. I was in menopause as well. I didn't sleep for 6 weeks, and I had to beg my doctor for Ambien. And I'm off of it now. I just went on. I mean, my doctor said cut it in half for 3 days, then cut that in half for 3 days, and then just quit. This is an otoneurologist. I don't think, and if I hadn't been on some other meds at that time, other meds for my migraine-associated vertigo, at that time, I would have taken it much slower, but I knew I was supported by those meds. And no sweat. I go and fall asleep in a natural way, and boy, does that feel good. I was also depressed at the time, and people who are depressed, also have a hard time sometimes falling asleep, and I didn't want to get up in the morning, so I couldn't get to sleep, and I would stay in bed in the morning. Now I get to bed at the same time I used to. I'm early to bed, early to rise. And that is who I am, and I love it. I love my days, I love my work. Okay, so we associate good feelings with love. And we can create that feeling with 20 minutes of hugging, sex, laughter, and chocolate. All of these make the unconscious mind more malleable to change. So, before a session, if you don't want to do this thing, we play. I always make the sessions playful, and laugh, and if you want to do some hugging, these are also things. Chocolate, yeah, that'll do it too. So that may be why people crave chocolate. I doubt that anybody really loves themselves, and if you can't love yourself, there's no way you can love another. So this is good for everyone. So let me tell you about this critical factor that we have. When we were young, we would look up at our parents when they were speaking to us or yelling at us or calling us names. So this critical factor, we stuck in the middle of our forehead because we're looking up, they're calling us names or yelling at us. Maybe they're just speaking to us and we already don't trust them. They say that they love us and they're behaving another way. So that critical factor, we stuck right there unconsciously. So not everything gets in. We have so much input in our lives. I can't even go to the grocery store. It drives me crazy. I'm introverted, and so my psychic energy naturally goes in. And I'm hypersensitive. Can't stand that damn grocery store. So, as a child, we stuck it right there so we wouldn't have a system breakdown. Now, so we do this. I teach you to do this technique, which I call be happy for no reason at all. And I give you an anchor, and I do this. Yeah. So an anchor is something that by doing, this is the anchor, and by doing that, the technique, what you've done during that technique will just come right back again. So that what I did right now just made me happy for no reason. And what it did, it made my unconscious mind more malleable and took the critical factor away. So now we can work unconsciously. Isn't that great? Okay, so children, let me talk about this for a while, because, yeah, about trauma. Children are traumatized more than you may know. Having a toy taken away, getting yelled at, getting yelled names, being put in a room by itself, getting hit, being suppressed of their emotions, being suppressed of who they are. No, you can't study. No, you can't be a fireman. Quit playing fireman. You can't be a fireman. You have to have a job with more status. Remember I said the limbic system has something about they want and status is important to the limbic system. And so, and our parents as well. So, quit playing firemen, quit playing policemen. You're going to law school or medical school. Yeah. Oh my God. That'll take the life out of them. It does. It takes the life out of them. I got my own willingness to the will taken, the life force taken out of me almost by nobody in my family could express anything, emotions or anything of themselves. We had 11 kids, it was chaos, and there was no room for expression. It was horrible. I often thought to myself, why was I born? So that's pretty traumatic. Just a moment a trauma occurs, the unconscious mind creates a quarantine for it, quarantines this trauma where it lives so it can't harm anything else in your mind, in your body, but it lives. And it repeats itself over and over again until the time you can deal with it, or you do go into system overload and have some kind of breakdown. Maybe a nervous breakdown, maybe some kind of breakdown in your body. I don't know. So now, knowing that you are not in the driver's seat, the conscious mind is not in the driver's seat, let me talk about the brain and how it works with NLP. how you can become in the driver's seat more and more. So first there's the reptile brain, which is your brain stem and cerebellum. Our reptile is in charge of our vital functions, heart rate, breathing, body temperature, as well as our drives for food, procreation, and it doesn't care about good or bad. It's about our body systems and keeping them in balance. But it is important to NLP and that critical factor. And it's very rigid. So we want it to become more malleable, to work with it. To get rid of that critical factor, it becomes more malleable. Then there's the limbic brain, which records memories of behavior, which creates emotions. It holds value judgments that exert influence on our behavior. It cares about status. Some of these things are unconscious and some of them are conscious. The limbic brain consists of the hippocampus and amygdala. Then there's the neocortex, which only human beings have. Its function is human language, abstract thought, imagination, and consciousness. The neocortex is very flexible, whereas, again, the reptile is very rigid. Our critical factor determines what is allowed in, and anything that threatens how we see ourselves, how others see us, or what we already know to be true to our belief systems is not allowed in. So this creates a pretty boxed in life. If you don't do something about it. And we live longer lives these days, but sick lives with all these chronic diseases. In modern days, we never used to have these chronic diseases. So this is where, it's a great system, but it's not changeable without NLP. So all psychological states are based on our memories, which exist unconsciously in a distorted way. The events are gone. The memory is distorted. Some of them are deleted or put in quarantine. Your memories are not you. They are things that have happened to you. You are also not conscious to your dominant thoughts and memory. You're not conscious to them. Your dominant thoughts and memories are the ones that came into your unconscious mind first. Like my memory when I was first born. And my mother looked into my eyes and looked away. She couldn't look into my eyes. So, I see movies where mother's looking into the baby's eyes and loving. That's what a child needs to thrive. I ended up with thrush, which is a baby not thriving condition. So right away, I wanted out. I wasn't thriving. That first memory, first memory. That's my dominant memory. And my loudest voice. You see, as I said, the reptile doesn't care about good or bad, but it cares about what and who is shouting the loudest in your limbic brain. Your reptile knows that something needs to be done about this. Needs attention. As your reptile brain controls your body system, and your reptile cares that your system doesn't go into overload, your reptile sends a signal to your limbic brain, which causes an emotion, which causes your neocortex to try to figure it out. What to do. But guess what? You can't think your way out of this. This is where NLP works best. We put you in a state where the critical factor is turned off. Easy. Now we can remove what is not true to you. I interpreted, even from the time of birth, my mother looking away as she hates me. And I identified with that. And I've lived a life of self-loathing. And created all these things in my body. And self-sabotaging like crazy. So I can put you in a state where the critical factor is turned off. That's easy. Now we can remove what is not true to you. And the noise goes down. That loud voice goes down. The reptile is happy. Unhappy emotions go down. The thinking brain is calm again. And you are more of who you really are. Also, the things you identify with control you. First, who did you first look at birth? Your mother. You identify with your mother. Always. Or, in my case, I never liked my mother. I identified with my father. I loved him to death. So I identify, you may identify with a different parent as well, but the one that you first see is, I'm not going to generalize, who you identify with either one of your parents, one that you put on the pedestal most. And I put my dad on a pedestal. I loved him. And also those around you that force things on you from years 0 to 5. You are this, you must be this, teachers, sit quiet. My kindergarten teacher, when I got used to being in kindergarten, when I first went in kindergarten, I was the one hanging on the rail of my we had a little steps and a railing. I was hanging on to it. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my mom. I was enmeshed with her. So when people are enmeshed, they're like Velcro. When they split up, at least one of them feels like they're dying psychologically. And as a child, even more so, I couldn't stand it. I cried. And so my mom walked me to school. And I'll never forget, looking out. She was standing at the window of the kindergarten little school, and I was crying my eyes out. I couldn't stand it. So they brought another little kid to hold my hand all through kindergarten. Yeah. So I put you in a state where your critical factors turns down, turns off, and we were talking about things. Okay, the things you identify with control you. You know, your mother, teachers, and those sort of things. You also identify with things you do. So say, you know, people ask you, "Hi, how are you?" You've never met them before. What do you do? That's what people always ask. What do you do? Maybe not so much women, but men, because that's how they define themselves. So try this with me. I am a life coach. Oh, that dragged me down. With your eyes closed. I do. I'm introverted, so I do life coaching. Oh, that felt good. And other things. Let's something more exciting. I am a ballet dancer. Didn't drag me down quite as much, but it dragged me down. I do ballet. Wow, that was great. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, try that. Language it's neuro-linguistic programming. Language is important. Okay, so identify your language is important. You were born and still are a beautiful being, and you deserve to live the life that you were born to live, and you can create it by design. So to create and identify by design, we use the technique to think of and then feel in our bodies with the feeling of the most pleasurable state possible. The most pleasurable state possible. Think of sometime in your past which was most pleasurable to you. Or if you can't think of something really ecstatic, then go to sometime you had sex. And fill your body with that from head to toe. And when you know it's reached your peak, do this. And then keep bathing in it, bathing in it, bathing in it. With all this oxytocin in your body, the critical factor goes off. It just does. And now your unconscious mind is malleable and ready for change. Deep, long-lasting change. So that's my take on NLP. That's how I practice NLP. And I hope this was helpful. I'll share it everywhere. Bye-bye.